Hello and welcome. Well, Keir Starmer is the toast of London. He is toast of London. No, not the Matt Berry wonderful character, but his PM ship is over. The only person who doesn't seem to realise that is Keir. He's done. He is done. This latest scandal, which will echo through time because it's a big one and there's more to come out, is something that... I mean, surprise, surprise, who would you expect to be at the centre of a big scandal politically? Oh, could it be Keir? Oh, yes, it is. That's it. That's shocking. Who would have thought? And of course, what I'm talking about is Peter Mandelson. And let's listen to Keir really just confirming, if you were in any doubt that he was out of his depth, that Keir was out of his depth, let's listen to him replying to a question or two from a couple of journalists. And note that this journalist, they begin with essentially the question, just to clarify. And if you've ever been asked that question in business, in life, very often you will have sensed that I need to really think carefully about what I'm about to say, because this is a sort of passive-aggressive question. This is somebody who may be a little bit on the attack.
So I just clarify on the basis of what you said today and what you said yesterday. What was your understanding of what the relationship between Mandelson and Epstein was? I mean, were you under the impression then that he had completely broken off contacts, friendship at the point of conviction?
So we now know that Keir wouldn't answer that question initially in Parliament and then did, and knew that Mandelson had, in fact, been in contact after conviction, after release from jail.
At the point, you knew that there had been a relationship in the past. You knew that this was potentially a very dangerous situation that could come back to haunt you.
And it has. And you should have stopped right there. So here we go. There's one reason you cannot really be PM. You can't continue. You should have had more sense than that.
Did you, as it were, make a deal with the devil that you knew that...
Now notice the language. Isn't it interesting? Prince of Darkness, sleaze, evil, deal with the devil, Mephistopheles. Interesting language.
This could be damaging, but at the same time, Donald Trump is equally sort of impacted by this.
No, the questions were precisely...
So what Keir's doing now is sort of not really answering the question, but his defence is going to be they asked questions. Yeah. Really, that's his defence.
To get to that question of what was the nature and extent of the relationship?
That was pretty simple to work out for most of us.
And then details about places he may have stayed.
Where did you stay, Peter? Hotels? Thanks, Peter.
And the picture painted, the impression deliberately given,
he's an impressionist painter.
By the information that was provided and the information that wasn't provided. So the information that was provided and that which wasn't.
Is Keir a lawyer? Let's continue. Wasn't.
Was deliberately intended by Mandelson to make my team believe that he barely knew Epstein. That's the picture he painted. That was a lie.
Wow. If you listen carefully to what Keir says, he says that was a liar. I think he probably meant to say that was a lie, but you're right, that was a liar. You've sort of, hoist by your own petard in many ways, because you knew that in the first place. He was a liar, and he still is a liar, and he still was a liar when you were asking him these questions. Let's keep going.
Kieran Stacey from The Guardian. Prime Minister, I wanted to read out some of the things that Labour MPs have told us in the last 24 hours about you. One told...
Oops, here we go.
Us, I'm personally not sure I could trust myself to back the Prime Minister in a confidence vote. Another...
Now, whoever said that's not alone.
Said, It's like Chris Pincher on steroids. It's
Oh dear.
over. Another said this government is on the run. One
Yeah, more so than Paul McCartney and his band.
former minister said it's time for a fresh start, the sooner the better.
Yep.
Isn't the real lesson from yesterday that you can no longer command the majority in the Commons? And if so, isn't your authority fatally undermined?
Well,
Now, how's Keir going to answer that? Now, just again, let's pause for a second. What he's being asked is, can you continue as leader? Because you've got these people who have no confidence in you. Not necessarily everyone, but an awful lot of people. So can you continue?
I understand the anger and frustration amongst Labour MPs about
About you, Keir?
what has happened, the deceit.
About the deceit. Not about the fact that you allowed yourself to be deceived, that you appointed this guy, thought about him in the first place. So it's about the deceit that people are angry about. I see. Okay.
Both in the appointment of Mandelson as ambassador and what happened at the tail end of the last Labour government. Actually,
So people are angry about the appointment, but it's because of the deceit, because of the lies that Mandelson told, and also how he behaved at the end of the last Labour government. So that's going to be, 15 years ago or so now. Interesting.
share that anger and frustration.
Keir shares it.
It was palpable.
I'll bet it was. So let's. There are many more interesting snippets in that that conference that I could play, but I think already we've seen enough, because to listen to him there at the end of that, he's basically just trying to say what people are angry about was Mandelson lying, and that just doesn't track well, does it? It's like, that doesn't make any sense. That's not what they're angry about. They're angry about the fact you even thought about it in the first place. And if you listen to the answers from the first question that we heard about the deal with the devil, then essentially what Keir Starmer is saying is that, well, we asked him questions, and so it wasn't us. We did what we needed to do. It was Mandelson. He lied. So there are really two reasons then from that Keir Starmer is absolutely not fit to be the PM. I mean, there's more than two, but just from that. So first of all, if you thought that someone who had a history of shady dealings, of strange behaviour, of having a reputation as being the Prince of Darkness, that sleazy, that in the shadows, that snake in the long grass demeanour and vibe that so many people picked up from him, because, well, that's how he rolls, that guy. And you thought that, well, after what happened at the end of the last Labour government, you just said it, Keir, that he would be ideal. So that is naive. It is without gumption. It is incredibly stupid. And for that reason alone, you can't be PM. Because you gotta read people properly. You've got to read situations. And why and how you thought that Mandelson was ideal for that role escapes an awful lot of people. Now, I will postulate why I think he thought that, but we'll come on to that. So that's reason number one. Keir's got to go. Reason number two is slightly more devious, actually, is that Keir knew some of that. And that's the reason he chose Mandelson. In other words, he was hoping that, in actual fact, Mandelson would bring some of his scheming and wheeling and dealing, because he certainly seems to be good at that, getting involved in so many different things, creeping around the corridors in the evening, doing goodness knows what. And so maybe they gambled, Keir and his team, that putting Mandelson out there would get Mandelson scheming and wheeling and dealing, and his tentacles would go out and out and out, and that would give Keir et al. Information, but would also increase the strength of the relationship between the UK and the US. And Mandelson would find things out, and Mandelson would also, because he's like the devil, seductive, and find ways to manipulate and influence. Is that what it was about? Could it be that was the gamble? Now, that's not the only thing, and that in of itself is horrible and horrid, and in terms of ethics and morals, should disbar Keir immediately from the PM role. But that's not the other main second reason. The main second reason is that it could well be that what Keir's team were doing, with the knowledge of Keir or not, was effectively setting up plausible deniability, knowing that Mandelson was a risk, a big risk. Knowing that, they thought, we better cover ourselves. So we'll ask him questions. And then if people say, well, didn't you vet this guy? Oh, no, we did. Of course we did. Of course we did. Yeah. What did you do? We had a cup of coffee. Yeah. And then asked him questions. Wow, what sort of questions? Were you staying at where were you staying when you were out, if you ever met this Epstein guy? In a hotel. Right, thanks, okay. And nothing shady going on? No, not at all. With this convicted individual, those horrible crimes? No, nothing. No, it was all pleasant. Painting a picture, you see, bamboozling the people who were asking him those questions, who probably knew otherwise. So again, if they didn't, extremely naive, shouldn't be in the rules. But ultimately, Keir's responsible. And if Keir's excuse is, well, I let my team do it, you're the leader, you're the person in charge. Even a cursory glance at the process that they went through should have been enough for you to recognise that this was either, and therefore makes you complicit, by the way, this was either a plausible deniability setup, oh no, we interviewed him, it wasn't exactly in depth, was it? Or it was woefully inadequate. So again, there's something there that says the signal coming out of that mess is you cannot be PM. Because if that was deliberate, just to cover all your backsides, then PM material, no. That smacks of being disingenuous at the very, very, very least, but fairly corrupt behaviour. Not moral, not ethical. And the risk you took, and you must have all known this was a risk, is also stupid. So the stupidity in thinking that would hold up if things came out in terms of the interview, so-called, it disbars you, again, from being PM. And the fact that if it was plausible deniability that was set up, as I've said, the moral and ethical implications of that also disbar you. So it's 2.5. But two main reasons. One, you should have known about the guy, shouldn't have thought about him in the first place. When you did interview him, it should have been thorough, a proper vetting process. Both of those, in a nutshell, mean you cannot be PM. And that's not all, of course. There's a myriad of other things that we could talk about here. There are lots and lots and lots of reasons. But at the time, eyebrows were raised. People were gobsmacked that Mandelson was out there, was back in such a position. But here's the other thing, just to finish off. And I think this in many ways is it's worrying. You could say it's scary, but it's also deeply depressing. When the investigation that's now going to take place takes place and the information comes out Some things will have to be held back, no doubt, for national security reasons. But some of this stuff is likely to end up uncovering the tip of the iceberg of the sleaze, the corruption, what I've called the dark web of the elite, the establishment, or the elite in the establishment, and how they conduct themselves.